What's up, all? If you've been around for a while, then you know that we recently moved from downtown San Francisco to the snowy mountains of Utah.
And we didn't decide to just buy a house or to build a house with a builder. We thought it would be completely normal, rational, reasonable to contract our own construction out of our house.
In the construction world, this is called an owner-builder project.
This clearly didn't make sense to a ton of people. Okay, Josh of the future here. We need to pause and admire some of these comments. You keep emphasizing on saving money and doing do-it-yourself projects, but in the foreseeable future, you will not become a builder. And this experience/expertise you gain will not be leveraged elsewhere. It's fun to build a house, but on the flip side, it's equally backbreaking and donkey's job. This can be outsourced to a professional builder, and the time you save can be utilized to do some more fruitful work.
We think that we've stumbled upon probably like the coolest and, in my opinion, most bougie way that you can invest in real estate ever.
So just for a high-level overview, we spent about $700,000 to build this house, but last month, our home actually appraised for $1.3 million.
If you do a little basic math, that means we made a little under $600,000 over the past 6 months building our home.
And if you've watched some of our previous videos, you know that we only put in about $60,000 as a down payment. You heard that right. We grew a $60,000 down payment into $600,000 of net worth.
No, that isn't clickbait, and we're not trying to recruit you for some like drop shipping scam. We really like 10x'd our investment in less than a year.
But wait, there's more. All we have to do is stay in this home for 2 years, and virtually all of that $600,000 is tax-free. Which, to put into perspective, we would have to be earning like $900,000 salary at tech jobs for the after-tax amount to be equal there.
Nuts. So yeah, that's pretty cool and pretty nuts. And if I can build all of this as a 26-year-old woman with no construction experience in the middle of the pandemic in one of the craziest building markets of all time, we thought that we'd make an info video because it wouldn't be completely unreasonable to assume that you could too.
And just to clarify another point before we dive in, this has really been Katie's project. I've been working full-time at Robinhood, and while I've found ways to dive in and help out, this is really a deep dive video into Katie's entrepreneurship the past little bit.
So we made $600,000. Where did that come from? Let's dive into the numbers. Last year, around this time, we were driving around Utah searching for lots. We ended up finding one that was $200,000, and we put in an offer. Our offer had a 60-day closing window, so we really only had 2 months to draw up plans, get bids for our house, and then go to the bank to get a construction loan.
Once we put all this together, we went to the bank, showed them our lot, showed them our plans for the house, and they granted us a construction loan for $668,000. $200,000 of that was for the lot. The other $468,000 was for the construction of the actual home.
So after we bought the lot, we had $468,000 to spend. And that spending is, I guess, pretty straightforward. We just start contacting subs and building the house.
And that process is pretty much as straightforward as it sounds. You're literally calling up a framer. Hey, framer, can you come and frame our house for us? Yeah, sure. It's gonna cost like $30,000. Okay, sounds good.
So there's like 50 different subs or so that have to build your house, and you pretty much repeat that cycle over and over and over again until you have a finished house. Here's an actual spreadsheet breakdown of all the expenses on our home. Before we get started, one thing to note is that our house is about 5,100 square feet. It has an upstairs, a main floor, a walkout basement, and everything is finished.
And we're not gonna go through every single expense one by one because there's a lot here, but let's talk about some of the highlights.
So obviously the biggest expenses were lumber and framing. And if you see this lumber's future chart, you know that 2020 was what a ride for buying wood in the US. So right off the bat, $19,000 going straight to the city for basically a piece of paper saying that we have permission to build on the land that we own.
They do some other things, like they'll come out for inspections to make sure it's going okay. They let you access the sewer line that they've built to your lot, things like that. But for the most part, you can see pretty big expense going straight to the city. Another random item you might not think of, you have to pay an engineer to actually look over your plans and make sure it's structurally sound and not gonna blow away in a windstorm or something. Pretty good expense if you ask me. And you can see pretty quickly there's a ton of expenses that add up, and this is all stuff you don't really see at all in the finished home. Excavating, which is digging the hole, plumbing, putting concrete in the basement and your foundation, putting electrical systems in the walls. Some other big ticket items in here, you can see windows cost $20,000.
We got some upgraded windows because they're black on the exterior and we have grids in them, which cost more money. It's around $25,000 to drywall the house.
And there's a ton of other smaller expenses like your carpet, wood flooring, exterior doors and things. But you can see pretty much the biggest expense on here was straight up lumber for the house. And we have this other item down here, contractor fees. The bank requires you put this in there. This is what you're paying yourself to do the job of an owner builder. It's basically what you would be paying a builder if you hired them. So this almost $100,000 went straight to us.
Another cool thing about that number is the bank actually counted that as part of our down payment for the home, which is why we had to put only about $60,000 on a $700,000 loan, is because we had so much built-in equity from these contractor fees that the bank just counted as our down payment. So after we get our certificate of occupancy from the city, which is just basically the city saying our house is safe to live in and all of the main construction is completed, the bank now sends over an appraiser to value the home. So at this point, we were feeling really stressed, honestly, because we were over budget. We just spent like 6 months of our life potentially building an overpriced home, and if the house didn't appraise, then that signals to the bank the house isn't even worth doing a mortgage on because you don't even have 20% equity in it. And so we would have to bring more cash to the table. There's just a lot of different variables that we were really stressed at this point. So the appraiser came back with a final number of $1.3 million, and we were absolutely thrilled.
When we heard back that the house was worth $1.3 million, this was like a life-changing phone call, right? Katie had left her job that was paying like almost $300,000 to build a house. $600,000 was more than her job and my job combined. Katie had taken a huge risk the past year since she left.
I mean, we both taken a huge risk by signing up to build a home when we never had before.
But it really just put in this perspective, wow, this is an incredible way for us to build wealth. And it really made me especially start questioning some things like, wow, is it worth it for me to even be working my tech job when we could be working for ourselves and making just as much money building houses and have all this free time to do things like YouTube or other projects. And just to be clear, it's not super common to make $600,000 on a house like this.
Especially your first home.
Yeah, and there were a ton of factors that went into it. Honestly, the pandemic is a really crazy market to build a house in. There's tons of delays, huge price increases on things, but we were able to find a lot of ways to keep prices low and to be really frugal about the house construction.
Another thing that contributed is obviously the housing market has been increasing like crazy. Anybody that owns a home out there has also received a lot of equity in the past year on their home just because house prices are rising. Probably one of the biggest factors is that because it was my only project and my personal home, I did a lot of things that a builder probably typically wouldn't do for a build. I shopped around like crazy for lighting deals. I got our appliances on coupons, just did a bunch of crazy stuff that a builder probably wouldn't do to save costs on a project.
So yes, there's a lot of craziness right now in construction, but this just shows if you put in the effort, there's a really big market and a lot of money to be made in building houses and doing it right now.
And this is honestly something that we're gonna continue to do. We're gonna live in this house for a couple years and repeat the process over and over again and just get better and better at it. Now that we've teased you with all the numbers, I know you guys have been begging for a house tour. We're not quite ready to film and post that. We're still waiting for our oven, for our fridge, for some cabinets, things that we wanna get wrapped up before we post a final home tour for you guys, but that should be coming out in the next couple months. We'll be taking a little break from house content and doing pure tech content over the next couple months.
Also, we're super sorry. We know we didn't do the best job of filming the whole house process on YouTube. It was the most stressful time in my entire life, for sure. And we're gonna do better documenting the whole thing next time.
So if you have absolutely any questions, please comment them down below. We will answer them. That's the whole point of this video, is to be a resource for you. So drop any comments you have down below and we'll get to them. Thanks guys for watching.